Praise the Lord. I'm Bishop David Evans, and welcome once again to Jesus and our mental health. I don't know if you've had the time or several times in your life when it seemed like sadness just would not leave you. It seemed like it was lingering, did not feel like you were going to be able to dig your way out. I want to talk to you about 3 ways that I believe that you can overcome sadness. Now, I'm not talking about when someone didn't show up for a date, or you didn't like the dinner that was served, or, those kind of simple things. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the kind of instances where you and I find ourselves being impacted by some circumstance over a protracted period of time, days, weeks. I'm going to talk about 3 things that I believe will help us overcome. They're going to seem simple, and you want to hold on to hear the last one because it's going to kind of surprise you, but I think you'll see the effectiveness of it. Well, sometimes we find ourselves in positions where a great sadness comes. And that can happen when a succession of very distinct challenges come along at the same time, or we experience several losses at the same time, or one right after the other. Circumstances which seem to pile up, almost arriving to your life like mail comes to the mailbox. And then you find yourself struggling to keep yourself level, to keep your happiness and your joy at a level that is functional. Now, all of us have to function with sadness from time to time, so I'm not talking about the utopic view of having a life that has no sadness in it at all. The Bible is very clear that we'll have sorrow in this life, we'll have persecution in this life. But there are 3 things that I believe we have to keep in mind to make sure sadness does not become a permanent part of our lives. One of the primary things is to simply admit how you're feeling. Say to yourself that I'm sad about this, I'm upset about that, I'm discontent about whatever. So the first thing I want to share with you is you have to admit it. A lot of times, we've been taught to fake it till you make it and all that kind of stuff. But what happens is you don't resolve the emotional internal turmoil, and you're still trying to function. So there are no solutions. So the first thing you've got to do is admit to yourself, I don't feel good about this. I'm sad. I'm very disappointed, very depressed. All right. Now, those people of faith are going to think, well, that's not faith. No, it is faith. The book of Lamentations is a book of complaints. So you need to understand that. When you read the Psalms, you see the equation between human beings complaining and God answering. So the joy of the Lord does not necessarily mean you will not have challenges. So the first thing you've got to do, my brothers and my sisters, is admit that you feel bad. Second thing is a little more difficult, and that is admit to yourself the cause of the sadness. Now, here's something I learned a long time ago. Sometimes you can go through a period in a daytime and not really understand why you're feeling the way you feel. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you just, you woke up in a funk, whatever that is, for whatever reason. One of the things I've learned to do is connect the dots, which means from the day that I'm in, the feeling that I'm having, what caused it. And all of a sudden, your mind will take a little journey back to whether something in your present connected to some instance or situation in your past, and a memory of sadness comes up. So the second thing you want to do after you admit that you're feeling sad is to find the source. You want to find the source. And you do that by asking yourself, why am I feeling that way today? Admit, number 1, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way today? And then when you're doing the why, connect the dots between your present feeling and something in the past that may not have been resolved. May have been an argument. A song that you hear can make you think of a person and of a situation. Then all of a sudden, a feeling of sadness will come over you. And if you're not careful, you'll let it dominate your day. So we want to first admit that we're sad. Secondly, why are we sad? Connect the dots. Get back to the source. And thirdly, and I told you you're going to be a little bit surprised, you have to ask yourself, Am I partially responsible for my own sadness? I know that sounds a little crazy, but you've got to ask yourself, especially if your sadness has been continual and been complete, watch this, and it's always connected to a choice that you've made. You've got to ask yourself, is this feeling that I have, is it the fault mine? Is it my fault? And is it because I'm making the same repetitive decision, which is causing me to get into the same type of situation, so I feel the same way? I hope I've helped you today. You know, Jesus is called the great physician and the great counselor. Write me, let me know how you feel. Start applying these 3 principles, and every time you feel sadness come over you, you'll be able to dig your way out. I'll see you soon.